Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
And Lincoln's here with us, so we might get some background noise again.
Sound effects,
today.
They're called.
Yeah. It's weird. She's a lot more vocal ever since she was born.
Always got a smart-ass comment, don't you, Lincoln? Yeah, we're recording late in the week, which is throwing me off. But I don't know if it's really that, or it's like I went to dinner last night and got a burger that was undercooked, and it's it's the first time in my life that I've ever had to send food back at a restaurant, because I've had stuff that's not been cooked how I would prefer, but I always just suck it up and eat it.
Yeah, that's why I thought this was going the food poisoning route, but
no, it doesn't because
you actually, yeah, it's I think maybe I'm 37 and I can maybe count 2 or 3 times my entire life I've actually sent food back.
Yeah, it's that thing of a couple bites into a burger, and then you get closer to the middle and it's oh, this is actually not done. Oh no, yeah. They had one job to get this done. And I'm such a fucking wimp about it that I was just I just wanted them to know hey, you kind of undercooked my burger. You it wasn't a complaint thing, it wasn't here's how
what
fucking
the fuck?
Yeah, here's how sad I am is that I still would have paid full price for the burger. And I told him I didn't want him to make me another one. I was just kind of it's fine. We had some appetizers and stuff that I got kind of filled up on and shit. So, but I was just hey, just so you know, kind of thing. And they're oh, well, we'll take it off the bill and we'll get you a dessert. And I'm just I don't need it. I don't want it. This is too much attention. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I just want to in the night be the burger was undercooked and then disappear. I
can't remember the exact circumstance. We had one once we went out somewhere, and it was something super minor. It wasn't even that major. I think maybe we had to wait 5 minutes for our drink or something, and they were supposed to come right away. Something that I wouldn't even really notice because I'm not that picky.
Unless one person was just really thirsty, that's the only time you notice something like that.
But even if I am, I never complain about that because I'm always I'm kind of how you're describing, where it's well, they're probably just busy. It's okay.
Right, when you've worked any sort of service job, you the last thing you want to be is somebody complaining. Yeah. And even when you're polite about it, it's a pain in the ass for them. But and even though you're completely in the right, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and whatever this thing was, we didn't even say anything about it. Not even a just so you know type deal. It was the server was I'm so sorry, this and that, and we'll take your food off the bill, and that's no, you really don't have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then here's the secret: if you're a server and you see me coming, do that, because I always feel bad. So then I end up paying the amount of my meal as the tip instead.
Wow.
So
that's a pretty baller move, though.
Yeah.
No, so I insist.
You take my damn money.
What's cool about that is the tips go to direct.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's if you're a server, if you want more money, give me free food that steals it from the restaurant, and then you'll get the amount.
Wow.
I don't always do that, but I have done that when I feel it was a completely stupid reason for them to. And it's never been a whole meal, but where it's oh, we won't charge you for your drink. It's well, then I'm just adding $2 to my tip.
Yeah, because I was prepared to pay for that anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
And then you're being extra nice, so here's an extra tip.
Yeah.
But yeah, my restaurant etiquette does not match up with I think the average restaurant goer.
Yeah. Well, in this place we eat at all the time, so the last and I've never had to complain. And so, the last thing I want is, them be oh, it's them all over again. Fuck. Even
I always like the guys that, and I've heard people in booths behind us. Every fucking time I come here, and it's you want to look at them and go, why the hell do you keep coming back? You idiot? At this point, you shouldn't get any free food. This is on you.
Yeah. That's the thing. And I've had anyone else who's gone out to eat at it for any length of time. You have up and down experiences, but I have never if there's been a place I really hate, I don't fucking go back to it. You know, it's,
Right.
and that's almost never happened. Like, at least not at like a real restaurant. I've gone to like weird sandwich joints and shit in Idaho where I was like, this place is fucked.
Yeah.
But
is that a toilet plunger they just flipped my burger with? I'm outta here.
But like when you eat like a undercooked burger or something, and even when it's just a few bites, you spend the rest of your like next 24 hours in like fear.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, like
please don't fucking make me really sick.
Right. But then I always play that game like because I also understand the power of like kind of the placebo effect, but this would be in reverse because it's not something making you feel better.
Yeah.
Just the mental, like, the more you feel like, oh man, I ate that, I'm gonna get sick, that's gonna make me so sick, the more sick you kind of feel.
You're right, you get nervous.
Then I'm playing this like mental chess game with stuff like, oh god, that's definitely gonna make me sick. Oh no, it's not. I'm not sick. It's fine. Oh yes, it's gonna kill me. No.
Yeah.
It's for like you said about 24 hours.
Yeah.
And anytime you like yawn, you're like, oh god, is that a symptom? It's like, no, it's 4 a.m. and you're still awake, you idiot.
Yeah, like today at work, I was like, oh man, my stomach's hurting. I hope this isn't it. Not like, and it's like your stomach hurts every morning because you're just a perpetually anxious, nervous wreck about everything. Like, this isn't new. This is who you are. So I you know, trying to adjust to that and like tell myself like, no, you don't have food poisoning, you fucking moron. You just suck. But anyway, well, yeah, welcome to the non-essential podcast where we talk about how to handle restaurant service.
Restaurants, yeah.
When you're really afraid of attention. Yeah, so like we kind of talked about last few weeks, we did a couple more fiction stories, and we had some laughs and good times were had. But now we're going back home to what we know and love, and for me, that's, you know, spooky shit that's supposed to be true, but probably isn't. And so today we're going to talk about a little area in Houston called the Black Hope Cemetery.
I was so worried for a second that because I've kind of got a topic. I haven't started putting it together yet, but I just have the main topic, and it's a spooky place too. So we're both going the same direction now that we're wandering away from creepypasta. And then you're like, it's a little place. I'm like, if you say mine, I'm going to be pissed. But we're good. We're good.
It's a little town called San Francisco. Maybe you heard of it. And I start plucking a guitar.
Black Hope Cemetery, you said?
Black Hope Cemetery. So in the 1980s, Houston, I guess, was having a population boom, I guess. Like, I don't know what was going on in Houston that made people like, we got to move there. Because, like, all I know about, like, 80s Houston is that the Rockets lost to the Celtics twice in the finals over that decade.
I don't know. I was going to say Nolan Ryan, but he was Rangers, I think, not the Astros.
Yeah. Well, shit, I don't know, actually.
I can't remember.
So, yeah, maybe that was appealing to him, or, like, maybe they just, like, you know, extremely hot, like, humid hellscapes. That's all I know about Texas. So, like, Houston had to get pretty aggressive in creating, like, new housing subdivisions.
Sorry. I couldn't let that drop. I had to look it up, and he played for both the Astros and the Rangers. So.
Okay.
But it was during the 80s, 80 to 88, it was Houston, so that's why.
So that was the driving force. And people were like,
hey, one good pitcher in the
we got to see him. Pack up the whole family. We're settling down. So yeah, Houston got kind of aggressive about creating these new housing subdivisions in areas around Houston. And one place was the Newport subdivision just outside the city of Houston in a place called Crosby, Texas. Here it was where Sam and Judith Haney bought one of the homes constructed in the subdivision in 1982. And for them, it was everything they wanted. It was this, you know, picturesque dream house in a peaceful suburb. But it didn't have a pool. And God damn it, they wanted a pool.
Well, yeah. I mean, you live in Houston.
This isn't a dream house until I have a pool. So they began construction on it, and just as they were sort of starting digging into it, they received a visitor, and it was an elderly man named Jasper Norton. Because, of course,
I thought it was going to be Craig T. Nelson.
Played by Craig T. Nelson. Like, Jasper has to be, like, the most old man fucking name in the world.
Yeah, nobody's born a Jasper. You turn to a Jasper once you hit, like, 74, I think.
You start as, like, a Josh or something.
Right.
And then, like, 70, you wake up and, like, something's different, and my ID has changed somehow.
Seriously, have you ever met a 20-year-old named Jasper? I haven't.
And if I did meet one, I'd be like, you're lying to me. You must be 82. Sam Haney described the encounter saying, "This elderly man told me that he had noticed that we were putting a swimming pool in our backyard and that there was something about our backyard that I needed to know about. So I followed him around to my backyard and he pointed at the ground and said that there are some graves right here. And he marked a spot on the ground where they were. And I really didn't know how to react to that. I didn't know if he was just joking. I couldn't understand why anyone would want to joke about something like that. When he realized that the old man wasn't joking, Sam probably said, 'Get the fuck off my property before I bury you under this fucking pool. You son of a bitch. This is Texas. I need to beat the heat.' You know?
I know there's graves here. That's why I'm digging.
And I'll keep digging, Jasper." Yeah, so actually, nothing like that, but that's probably how I would react. So, like, get the fuck out of here. It's hot.
I like that he said, "I don't know why somebody would joke about." That's an awesome joke. Next time I'm driving around and see somebody digging, I'm going to be tempted to stop and be like, "Hey, you need to know something. There's some graves right here." And then just get back in your car and drive off.
Anytime I notice anybody moving in, like, I think you do need to be an old man to pull it off, but if you become an old dude and, like, you see people, like, moving in and shit, go up and introduce them and tell them their place is haunted. Like, and then just disappear. It won't even be your neighborhood. Like, just make that your hobby. So Norton continued to explain that he buried the bodies there himself and was promptly arrested. No, he had buried.
You read that well. I thought that's where you're actually going. I buried those.
But no, that's how I read it when I first was, like, getting the story together. He continued to explain that he buried the bodies there himself when he was a teenager. He explained that the land for the subdivision had for many years previously been a cemetery primarily used for former African American slaves called Black Hope Cemetery.
That's sad, because I was going to make a joke about there being the word hope in the name of a cemetery, but when the black is actually talking African American, it's like, here's your one hope. You can die and escape this slavery or whatever.
Yeah, it's actually like a really tragic, like a tragedy upon a minor tragedy upon, like, a major one, where it's like, because we can't even let them have their fucking cemetery. Like, we had to turn it into, like, suburb housing.
What they probably only didn't let minorities move into.
Right. Totally. Despite all the construction and digging, Jasper believed about 60 graves were still in this area. Sam said bullshit and began to dig in the spot Norton told him about. Probably didn't say bullshit, like, to his face, but he did start digging. Not too long into this endeavor, Sam found 2 wooden boxes with human remains in them. After some research...
Well, hold on now. That's not necessarily bodies from a grave.
That could be anything. After some research, authorities believe they had found the bodies of 2 former slaves, Betty and Charles Thomas. The Haneys were nervous about desecrating the graves. Probably should have thought about that before you dug. But they, promptly reburied them. But, in any haunting story, ghosts are easily pissed off about anything, and apparently this was the motivation they needed to try to fuck up a couple dozen families in the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, because that's the problem. They were excited. They're like, we got nothing, we got buried here and forgot, and we're getting a pool. And then they're like, oh god, no, let's rebury them and stop building the pool. And they're like, fuck.
That's the thing, like, why does, like, the pool fuck them up, but the housing didn't? Well,
that's what I mean. They were all excited as ghosts to be getting a pool, and then when they didn't get the pool, that's
Jasper pissed them off.
Yeah.
So, the Haneys reburied them. But the hauntings for the Haneys began pretty quickly after that, because they wouldn't be looking at all for supernatural activity after this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Judith described that the wall clock began sparking and glowing blue even when it was unplugged. You would think you would replace that clock like right away, but if it's sparking. She would get a strange feeling that she was being watched and hearing the sliding door open and shut when she was the only one home. Could be a ghost, probably Jasper, but you don't know.
You walk down one night and he's making a sandwich and he's like, there's bodies over there. Ooh.
The ghost in your kitchen needed a sandwich to to assuage them. And pickles. Do you have pickles?
What are you doing in my house? I'm old.
I'm Jasper.
I'm old is just a great defense to anything, unless you're not actually old, but like I can use it.
That's the thing. I wouldn't say shit to an old man who was like just like trying to play off dementia and wandering out of my house just saying like, I knew Calvin Coolidge.
Right. You're just like, we should lock that door next time.
Yeah. And one time, apparently, the ghost of Charles stole her shoes and delivered them to Betty's grave on what would have been Betty's birthday.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Haney's neighbors. So the Haneys get it pretty minor here. The people who get fucked in this story, or fuck themselves over, depending on how you see it, are Ben and Jean Williams. Because after all this, they began to notice that their flowers were inexplicably dying off and kept dying no matter what.
You live in Houston.
Exactly. Like, you chose to live in a fucking miserable hellscape where even civilized life was not meant to thrive. Or it could be ghosts.
Right.
There were also coffin-shaped sinkholes forming in their property, and they kept appearing no matter how often they were refilled.
Well, but that's not how you deal with sinkholes either. Like,
No, you keep putting dirt on them because eventually you beat the lack of matter. It's like black holes. Like, why don't we just fill them up with sand?
Right.
So the Williams house also had cold spots throughout it, even in the heat of summer.
Which is an awesome selling point in Houston.
That's fucking great. Like, why are you complaining? Faucets turning on and off on their own. They said toilets would flush on their own. So self-flushing toilets, which is just the future.
Mine actually does that because if the valve leaks like ours does, eventually it fills up enough and it flushes itself. That's not really a
that's
thing.
just not knowing how plumbing works.
Right.
Or you have it, or that's the future self-flushing toilets. Enjoy. Sounds of footsteps, doors opening and closing, shadowy figures, disembodied voices, much like Lincoln, foul random stenches because you chose to live with self-flushing toilets.
Also much like Lincoln.
And a general feeling of unease. Unable to afford to just up and move again, the couple decided to see what they could do to manage this haunting. But the incidences seemed to get more aggressive. At one point, Ben tried to tackle a ghost that seemed to be going in his wife's bedroom.
I love that. Like, because we all talk about, like, what would you do? I think everybody at some point has thought about, like, if nothing else, when you're, like, in your house alone and you get this weird feeling like something's standing there next to you, like, watching you, and you're like, should I even look? And if I do look and something is there, what would I even do?
You shoot in for a double leg takedown?
Right. I admire that because my solution is to always just like, if I don't look, nothing's there.
You would just your wife and child are in a room and you would just play it off like, oh, sorry, honey, didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
Ben described his thought process as such. The only thing I really thought of was, they ain't messing with me wife. As I dove through it, I felt a sticky cold sensation in my body.
I like to picture this event from the perspective of the wife that doesn't see the ghost. All of a sudden, your husband just
he's just falling on his ass drunk,
diving into the wall. Oof!
Yeah,
I'm sticky and cold.
Oh, are you okay, honey? The Williams tried to sue the housing developer for not disclosing that their house was built on a graveyard. But before any legal action could actually be taken, they would have to prove it by actually finding remains on their own property. Ben was convinced that a gnarled oak tree in their yard was a grave marker due to the carvings on it. It just had a carving of like an arrow and some random lines. So him, his wife, and their adult daughter Tina began to dig around the creepy tree, but during the process of digging, Jean and Tina both felt inexplicably sick and had to stop before they found anything. This is where
other than their septic system.
Yeah. This is actually kind of sad because their daughter Tina had to be rushed to the hospital. She suffered a major heart attack and she died 2 days later. She said she had felt dizzy and her eyes were glazing over.
Which I think are pretty common heart attack symptoms.
Heart attack trait, probably excruciating digging in the fucking Houston heat.
Houston, yeah.
Probably a terrible fucking idea. But it's still really sad.
Yeah.
The Williams, you know, I love how it said before, unable to afford to just up and move again. The Williams fled to Montana after this. So apparently they could.
She had life insurance. The daughter did, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's sad. Cha-ching, Montana, here we come.
A.K.A. Gold Town.
I hate to tell them how many, like, dinosaur graves are in Montana, though. They're going to be super haunted.
Yeah, imagine that fucking ghost.
Right.
That's the future of Jurassic Park. The Williams fled to Montana, certain that desecrating another grave was the source of their tragedy. But they would eventually return to another neighborhood in Texas, so I guess they really fucking like Texas, because if I lost a daughter in some place, I'm pretty sure I would want to stay as far as fuck away from it as possible.
They don't necessarily like Texas. Maybe they just really hated Montana. They're like, well, fuck. I'd rather be haunted. Let's go back.
Fuck that. I've been to both places. Montana kicks Texas's ass.
Heart attack ghosts beat this any day. It's cold up here.
They're both fucking brown, flat nightmare places, but Montana's a lot better. So they wrote a book about all of this because, of course, they did. And I guess that got turned into a movie, and it probably sucks, and the book probably sucks, but I don't know for sure. But mostly,
it sounds an awful lot like Poltergeist, but
yeah, but like most of these hauntings, like this is more like a direct to DVD, like probably direct to VHS. I don't even know if there would be a DVD for it.
That's true, because you said all this was going on in the 80s. Poltergeist would have already been a movie, so they wrote this book and everybody's like, we already have this.
You don't even have a clown in yours. Yours sucks. So meanwhile, the Haneys also tried to take legal action, and were at first rewarded with a cash award of $142,000.
Sounds pretty good.
But the decision was overturned when a judge decided it wasn't the developer's fault. Which is actually kind of possible. You know, like the developer maybe had no fucking idea what they were building on, and the city of Houston might just have been like, hey, just fucking make the housing project. And, you know, it was a African-American slave cemetery, so they probably didn't give a shit.
Well documented, yeah.
You know,
well, that too.
Well, enough to document it, yeah. So this completely fucked the Haneys, since, you know, they were saddled with tens of thousands of dollars in court fees, and they had to file bankruptcy, all because, really, if you think about it, because they were too cheap to get the ghost of Betty Thomas a fucking birthday gift once a year.
Right, their haunting didn't sound all that bad.
Yeah, if you just give her some fucking shoes every year, then you're good. That's just call it part of your rent.
Like you said, maybe get rid of the sparking clock before it catches fire and kills you all,
But I'm sure that's not the ghost doing that. That's probably just a piece of shit clock and a fire hazard. So they would end up leaving their dream home without a dime. flash forward to more present day, and the current owners of the Haney's old house have no claims at all of supernatural activity. So either it wasn't haunted, or the Haneys were, just really not liked by the supernatural.
Well, what it sounds like to me, being a very negative-oriented skeptic, is that these two families probably couldn't afford their homes and were looking for ways to sue
Scam
the developer.
You're always looking for the con. That's
maybe not even that they couldn't afford their home, but maybe that it's just like, oh,
shit went down.
We can get some money for this. Yeah. I mean, I'd be fairly unhappy if I found out that my house that was just built and I was excited to move into, like, turns out that there's bodies in my backyard.
I would be so fucking stoked about it. You kidding? Are you fucking for... If you've ever, like, taken a walk in, like, a cemetery, they're fucking nice. It's really peaceful, and...
Yeah, but
you just get to
dig a flower
shit.
bed, you don't know when this, like, skull's going to pop up and be like, hey, what's up?
Every time I take my dog out and she picks just the right spot to squat down, I'm going to laugh a little, because it's like, it's just funny. And if a ghost is going to live on my land, they're going to have a sense of humor about this shit.
If it was going to happen, though, like, I would hate for it to be like this kind of cemetery where it's a sad thing to begin with and, like, a really shitty part of our, I would say, history, but I think we're still, I don't know how to say I think I know we're still living it. But, like, these people that weren't seen as people and their graves didn't count for anything because of that, and nobody really cared, and over time they're just like, fuck. I'd want it to be built over, like, the poshest cemetery full of, like, these rich assholes.
Fuck that. Like, you'll get the goddamn... annoying ass, like, Victorian era ghosts,
ghosts.
Like, and it's just, and like, they didn't bathe back then, so they probably,
that's true.
Your house will just always randomly smell like shit.
The cold spots are nice, but I wish the ghost would wipe its ass.
So yeah, the current owners of the Haney's house have no claims of supernatural activity, telling interviewers, please get off my land, we're putting in a fourth pool. But neighbors around there still have stories to tell. One resident of the Williams' former house claims she heard a cougar-like sound by the window, but there was nothing there when she looked, which doesn't sound like a ghost thing. It
sounds like a cougar thing.
Right. It's like, do you have any ghost stories? Now that you mention it, a bear was here not too long ago.
But I didn't see it when I looked. It must have been a ghost bear.
I don't know if they actually have cougars in Texas.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then again, I don't know what a cougar would sound like. Like, there's so many, like, variations of, like, jungle cat sounds.
Two cats in heat, or two cats fighting, or two cats just hanging out at night. Like, yeah, that can sound very, like, otherworldly.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's true. There was also apparently electrical disturbances and doors slamming shut, all that good shit. The new owner of this house has grandchildren who, when they visit her, claim to see orbs, and there's, disembodied voices and breathing. Just the usual fucking ghost shit. Another resident in the neighborhood, a Vinay Luna, says she's had lots of weird experiences where her husband's slippers flew out of his hand, and that one time they just found their dog hovering in the air, which is just the funniest fucking thing in the world to me.
If I could pet my dog without having to bend down, that's a win for everybody.
Boo! We made your dog magic. That'd be the best ghost.
I like to think that the slipper saying that the husband gets sick of her stupid stories and throws his slippers at her, and then
blames a ghost.
She's like, the ghost did it. Yeah.
So threw it at the flying dog. That's what sucks, is you would never be able to eat again because the flying dog would just eat all your shit off the table.
I always want to hear the rest of those stories because, like, we came.
How did it end?
Home
yeah.
and our dog. Yeah, like, did you just leave him flying? Like, did he land? Did he zoom around the house? Like,
and how much did you fucking smoke, and what was in it beforehand? That's like directly out of Half Baked. But a lot of people living there say it's all bullshit. So, like, maybe the haunting of Black Oak Cemetery is just like any other neighborhood in the United States where the people living there just kind of believe what they want. You know, I'm pretty sure you could go to any street and you'll find people convinced some part of where they live is haunted, you know?
Yeah.
So, this place probably isn't that unique, but it did get a movie, so...
I'll tell you, we grew up, we were out in the country, you know, like not middle of
with
nowhere.
Your Ford.
Yeah. But, you know, the kind of place where the block that your house was on was at least like a mile and a half, 2 miles long, you know.
Yeah.
One of the, you know, not in the city. But a couple plots down from us, there was like the main road. We lived like kind of between two rural towns, so we weren't in either of them, but there was a main road that ran, you know, from one to the other. And on the other side of that road, which was just like two plots down for us, there was one of those like 1800 cemeteries with the like crumbling tombstones, the ones that still had it. And for whatever reason, those cemeteries are always built like on a hillside, so that I think whoever did it, they're like, this will be hilarious. Over time, the bodies are going to just start coming like out the side because of erosion. And
that would be like a really fucking morbid day when like the first like hand is like poking out and shit.
Yeah. But it was a cool place. I mean, we didn't go like hang out there, or at least I never did. I wouldn't put it past my brother to have like snuck over there at night and like smoke pot or something.
Hell yeah, dude.
But it
Not
was kind
that
of
I would
neat.
do that.
Like, I always thought it was cool that it was there. Like, it was never one of those things that made me like, oh, we might be haunted because there's a cemetery over there.
Yeah.
And again, not that it was that close. It would have probably been about 500 yards, you know, from our property. But
that's yeah. I've always like, it's weird because like I don't. I think maybe on my dad's side of the family, a lot of them have like a burial plot in some cemetery down in Texas. But everywhere else in my family, like everybody gets like cremated and stuff. So like I almost never have a reason to be in a cemetery. So it's always like just, you know, it literally is just like these are really peaceful places to walk. Or it
really
is
are.
haunted, and then that's cool in a whole nother way.
that's the thing. When I die, I don't know if I want buried. I want like cremated and then my ashes scattered from like a helicopter so that I can haunt the maximum amount of area.
Yeah. Do it, like, for me, I'm always like, well, do what's, like, most environmentally friendly. So, you know, if feeding me to a shark as, like, chum is the best thing, then I'm okay with that. I'm dead.
I see. That's one that I also thought would be really cool because you know how much I like sharks anyway, and it'd be like, yeah, that's like just returning you to the ecosystem.
You say that, but, like, what if you found, like, there was, like, your consciousness kicked back in when you turned into shark shit? And you
well, then would you like get to be a shark or like control a shark, or would you just be like in its stomach? You're like, fuck.
No, it's like
dark
it's when you're like plopped out and you sink to the bottom, and you just watch everything go by.
Yeah, but it's serene under the ocean. That'd
That's
be kind of
true.
nice, it's like a screensaver for eternity.
Yeah,
until you get covered in plastic and other human waste.
the perspective of shark dung on National Geographic. But yeah, you know, but pretty much everyone in like immediate family that I've known that's died, like they've always been cremated, and it's always been like, well, spread my ashes here, and it's like that's a lot of work. Like,
well, we could either do that or the dumpsters right there. I mean,
yeah, and like
honestly,
it's all. To be fair, you put it in your trash, it'll end up in the ocean eventually. Right. So.
Most of my family is buried. My grandfather on my mom's side was cremated, and then the urn was buried. So it's like, well, I guess you get both.
Yeah, that's
things.
Cool. That's cheating a little bit.
Well, you take up less space, I guess.
Yeah.
And then 1,000 years later, when somebody finds you, they don't realize it's you. They're like, hey, here's a cool pot.
That's kind of my thing. Is like, you know, I don't need to be buried, but I really would like a tombstone. Like, you could put it anywhere. I don't care. I feel like there should be a really funny message on my thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Tara's always said like we've got a lot of parks around here. I know you do up there too, and there's always these like memorial benches, like park benches.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, that would be nice." I'm like, "Then people just like have sex on you, and
hell yeah,
graffiti
dude.
you."
Why is that bad?
Yeah, but it's never the ones that you would want to do that.
I don't want anyone to do it, but I also want everyone to do it. Because it's like, I want my death to mean something for someone. Yeah.
Here's a spot where you can get. In fact, we'll put up privacy bushes all around it.
Please put your bare, sweaty ass right on my nameplate. Thank you.
Yeah, yours will be the only memorial bench that's a day bed, like a fold out.
It's like one of those like. It's still in a park, but it's like one of those like tacky like honeymoon heart-shaped beds. It's like, please pop a squat.
You know how they have the like dog bag dispenser? It's just a condom dispenser right next to it. Be like,
and people are like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to.
That's the funny thing is. That's human nature. You have these places like that like people can sneak away and do stuff that they know they're not supposed to, and it makes it hot. And then if you just made a place that was literally like meant for that, people would be like,
please fuck on my deathbed, please. I feel like I'm good.
I'm good, yeah.
It's like, God damn it.
We're gonna go do it behind these dumpsters. You're like, son of a bitch.
Come on, I can put my nameplate on the dumpster.
Well, that's what you do. Just put a secret nameplate on it and be like, ha ha, I gotcha.
Please jack off behind my tombstone, please. Yeah, I would want to. I'd probably just. My tombstone would probably just be like a stone statue of the crazy crab at this point, and everyone would know.
Well, and there's this whole like, and we've kind of talked about it before, but the whole like fake it till you make it thing, and that does go very far in life. We've seen that. Sadly, a lot lately in high-profile places. So that would be a thing. Is my life savings will go into constructing some like gaudy, like 50-foot statue of me, like striking some heroic pose. And of course, in the immediate future, people will be like, "That's just some pompous jackass." But again, 1,000 years down the road, they'll come across this statue and be like, "This guy must have been something." It's like, yeah.
That's how you got to look at it. Is like, life is temporary, but your death is forever. So you got to get something that really captures.
The other idea I've always had is to be buried someplace really like obscure, but with a bunch of random like artifacts. So again, it would be like a long-term practical joke for when archaeologists find your body hundreds or thousands of years later, and they're trying to make sense of what the fuck you were buried with. Like,
I would love to like I always wanted to do like the kind of like Nathan Drake Uncharted thing of just like have this really elaborate fucking maze of like puzzles and shit to like get to my tomb, and then when you open it up, it is just the crazy crab bobblehead.
But then history books at some point down the line would be like, humans from the year 2000 worship this crab
worship
god.
This crustacean god, and it turns out it was just me. Only I worshipped this death god. But that's the story of Black Oak Cemetery. We'll be back next week with something else.
Something else.
This has been something else.
It's weird, yeah. I think our show really reflects that we're recording on a Saturday afternoon instead of a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess it's always afternoon for you.
Well, no, this is 11 a.m. for me, so.
Well, right. But I mean, we actually had some energy today. Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah. Dangerous.
Yeah.
Might get addicted
next
to
week
that
when we're back. Yeah, next week we'll be back to our like, fuck, we don't really want to do this, but here we go.
Okay. They bought a ghost house and it was fucked up. See you next week.
Next week, yeah.
All right, yeah. Thanks for listening. See ya.